Welcome back to the Arena in the Boardroom. Happy Thursday. Here we are, fourth episode of the week, phase 2, the interview stage. Before we jump right in, I have got a black tea next to me that is fantastic. Harney & Sons, one of my favorite brands, and this one itself has some notes, some smoky notes that almost make it smell and taste a little bit like it's tobacco. That might not sound appetizing, but this tea is really good. I'm not a smoker, so tobacco is not my thing, but this is a really good tea that has a really unique flavor in addition to the black tea elements that go with it. But on that'll be in the description. Here we are, phase 2, which is conducting the interview. So this is really just a continued part of the whole evaluation process, right? This phase is variable. And you're going to likely have other people who are involved outside of your personnel department. Know this, right? So you get somebody to this phase, remember why you like them. There's a reason why you want to interview them more. So allow that to factor in, right? And don't make your decision during the interview. There is a process that needs to take place after it. Even if the interview doesn't go well, let the information kind of set in and really evaluate your candidate, but that's going to be more what happens in phase 3. Okay, so starting with how we want to do this. So you've got them, they want to interview. You've done a screening, we're going to set the interview up. Set your prospect up for success. So they passed the test, they passed the quiz. Now you want to give them the test. So this is still going to be a pretty tailored process. So the data that you've accrued up to this point, use this to shape the interview. If you're going to test them, a test you get a chance to study for. So give them the answers to the test and see if they do anything with it. Tell them what to expect in the interview, right? Give them some company information to study. Give them information about the supervisor, right? A LinkedIn page, maybe they've published some works. Give them something so that they can take a look at it. You are going to use the information you provide to assess further viability through intent. This is something that's been kind of circled around in professional sports circles in the NFL during the scouting combine phase where they want to interview a candidate. They give them a copy or some stuff from their playbook, and somewhere in the middle of it, they slip a $100 bill in the playbook. And then when they come back and talk to them, they ask them specifically about that page where the $100 bill is at. Well, if they got the $100 bill, they're going to probably mention it or be able to say what was on that page, or they're going to lie their way through the interview. So you can do what you want with that. I wouldn't suggest giving people money, but you can throw in little markers, tests, things that help you with your evaluation. If you're interviewing them, give them a chance to succeed and give them a chance to make it a tough evaluation. At a certain point, it is on them to give you the right stuff so that you can make your decision in addition to them making their decision. So where are we at now? So we're at the point now where we're conducting the interview. Okay, we've scheduled it. We got it. It's interview time here. You've given them all the information leading in. Now we're conducting the interview. I'm in favor of it being panel style, or at least having another person there. So somebody in this case from the personnel team, talent acquisition and recruiting, in addition to having the supervisor present. So you've got the administrative side and the job program side there together. The role that personnel has in the interview is to keep things on track. So if we're doing this virtually, which in this scenario we would be, you can message each other through the channels to aid during the interview. So if there was something that potentially is being missed or a good follow-up question, send that message to the supervisor who might be asking the questions. Give them some additional information that helps them through the process, some context or maybe something that might have been missed or if they need to re-clarify. Having one of us there ensures that ethical and legal questions are being asked. Programs, supervisors, they're not professional interviewers. They can interview, but they might not know the right questions to ask. So by having you there, it ensures that we're able to go through that process. And if you've built rapport with them, you're able to kind of keep things on track. Our role there is to inform about the broader benefits of the organization being on that side, talking about the accommodations process and how we do it. I know the organization I'm with does ADA very well. If you open up about the accommodations process, you might be able to get information about the need for accommodations and how you can get those in place sooner. Talk about your leave policy, talk about your benefits, etc. You can't ask these things. You can volunteer information, and if they give you information based off of what you volunteer, you are then allowed to ask follow-ups. That's where the whole dance comes in. That's the difference between an illegal question and then going off of information that you are given by the candidate themselves that they tell you. So that's how you can kind of lay some of that stuff in. You can begin to extract more precise information. As the personnel staff in the room, I would be the one taking notes while the supervisor is getting the information that they need. And again, if we're virtual here, I can send messages to help kind of keep things on track. With that, the supervisor's role in the interview, you need to meet the prospect, the candidate. You need to be the one who is now taking control of this process and informing them of you, of the job, everything else. So talk about that. Talk about the roles. Don't withhold the information. Give enough there so that they can make an informed decision. Talk about a little bit about yourself. Try to get some information about them. Get to know them the way that we did during the screen, albeit in an interview setting. Allow them to answer allow them to ask questions that you're able to answer. That's really what this should be about. So you've got those two people there that can kind of bounce off of each other, and you've got the candidate there who should be able to have a pretty positive experience because this has kind of got that back and forth. This should really still be in the form of a conversation, though. You don't want it to be a press conference. Let their answers guide what you're asking. Avoid a set agenda, right? But have your markers. You can have a broad plan, have some things you want to hit, but be ready to get a whole bunch of stuff. Be transparent. Don't withhold information. You are helping them make an informed decision just as much as you're trying to make an informed decision as to whether or not to move forward. Both parties might decide this is not for them, but you won't get that answer from both unless you give out everything. And we can't expect a candidate to give us everything. They're interviewing for a job. It's our job to try to extract the best information possible, but they're not just going to give it to us. The more transparent we are, in theory, the more transparent they will be because we're trying to bust down some of those walls and just say, look, this isn't about just us trying to see what we can get out of you. We want you to be able to get something positive out of us, and that's the back and forth that should go. Duration. Don't really have a set time. Likely an hour or less, but honestly, a good conversation is a good conversation, and you're going to probably get more information out of it. Inversely, if it's going terribly, you're not obligated to stick to a specific timetable. You can hit the eject button very quick if it is not going well. But the reason why I say don't just have a set timeline is because sometimes that stuff can go for a while. Right? Allow for questions, embrace the hard questions, and not knowing. Like, there's this pressure that we put on candidates to give us the answers that we need, and that's the wrong way to do it. Inversely, a lot of organizations say we love a transparent process, we love when we ask questions, but when you hold some of these quote-unquote recruiters' feet to the fire, they get a little tight, and you can see it, and you can see their faces scrunch up, and you can start to hear how they squeak when they move around in that seat because that is how tight they are. But embrace those hard questions. Encourage it. And if it's a really hard question that you don't have an answer to, go get an answer. Like, it's not difficult to say, I don't know, I will follow up with you. And if you do get that answer and follow up with them, that is a good faith effort to help them make that informed decision. That's what this process is. It is not just about finding somebody to fill a role. It's about finding the right person to fill the role. Not always the best, the right person to fill a role. And the only way that can be done is if there's transparency and if it is an informed decision-making process on both sides. So, got that out of the way. There is a debrief period. Once you're done, quick conversation with the supervisor or the program leader about the good and the bad. Give your rationale as a personnel expert based on what the original search was and why you brought them here and how you think it went. Understand, or at least seek to understand, why the supervisor is feeling any kind of way, positive or negative, because at the end of the day, they have to make their decision. Bounce your thoughts off back and forth. This should really only take 15 minutes, and then you're going to begin the transition to phase 3, which is where you're going to do the final evaluation. But allow a day to go by before you continue on or reject. So you don't have to respond right away. Give it 24 hours. And again, you can let them know what that process looks like. But don't make that decision right after you have the interview. Just give it a little bit of time, reconvene the next day, and then you can make your decision of whether or not you want to move forward. So, all right, these last two were a little bit shorter in terms of the timeline, just to get the information in there, because they're a little bit more straightforward. Up next is tomorrow, Fridays, Phase 3, the decision-making evaluation process, which will kind of close this thing out. And hopefully you get to this point, you're in Phase 3, you've got a difficult decision, and you can make one that's going to be good for your organization. As always, I've been teasing it all week. Coming up, we've got some changes coming to the platform end of the year, beginning of 2024, with some fresh branding, logos, naming, and we're going to have a little bit more distinction with the individuals creating content for us. So definitely check all that out. And as always, we appreciate the listen, and we will see you to close out the week on Friday, which is tomorrow. Thanks. Have a good one.